and we'll give you some questions and some thoughtful prompts to keep the conversation going or to get the engagement going. So stick around towards the end for that. And we'll also have time for Q&A. So if you have questions, just put them in the chat and we'll address those questions at the Q&A time. So we're excited to have our SAP, our strategic alliance partner, Dev Digital, with us this morning and their team to help us out with some cool information. We got David Ross, Kimberly Smith, Stephen Davis, and Heather Johnson. So thank you guys for being here and sharing with us this morning. And I'll turn it over to David to get us started and make the intros.
Great, thank you, Bill. I appreciate everybody coming on this morning. And because Heather is just our absolute Einstein as far as this stuff, I'm going to speak very little and let her do the most of the talking. Our team that's on, myself, I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship with Dev Digital. Kimberly is working primarily with healthcare companies and larger enterprise organizations to develop different computer aspects, coding aspects. But the real rock star today here is Heather Johnson. Heather is the rock star guru with Dev Digital of SEO and everything that is digital marketing. And she is going to be presenting today on some things that you guys can take home. Probably the most valuable thing about this whole discussion is going to be, I have already put in the chat, the ability for everyone on the platform to get an hour of her time in what we're calling a site audit. So all you do is fill out a little bit of information and we'll give a site audit. We've already done 15 of these for other EO members, and all of them have seemed really valuable to them, just giving them different aspects. We've had the fortune of speaking already at 6 forums. So we've been really excited about that. So, and Heather just told me she didn't see it in chat yet, so I'll put it up again. But anyway, so with that, Heather is our manager of SEO and everything digital ads. And even though she's been with Dev Digital only 6 months, 7 months, our founder, Peter Markham, who in my estimation is one of the best spotters of talent in Nashville, of course I'll say that because he found me, has been trying to hire her for over 3 years. And so he finally got her, and we're all very excited to have her. So with that, since I'm done turning her red, I'm going to turn this over to Heather and let her go ahead and start with this discussion. Heather, it's all you.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. Very excited about this and to be able to talk a little bit about our SEO and just kind of teach you about SEO and what you need to look for your own business. This presentation is 100% informative. So hopefully you should learn at least something from what I say today. And we usually take about 40 minutes. So we'll get through as much of this as we can in the 20 minutes that were provided. So I will share my screen. All right, guys. So the one topic about this presentation is SEO is the CEO of your website. So what does that mean? So when you think about your CEOs of your current company, you think of them as, a manager, an executive, a leader, a decision maker, and a developer. They develop your employees, they make them better. So we will give you a copy of all of these, the presentation, so you can take a look at it yourself in case I move a little too fast or maybe we need to revisit some of these things. You just need to go back to that chat and request to spend a little bit of time with us or just to get an email about the presentation. But again, your manager is your backlinking, having the right referral sources, referring your business. Your executive is your on-page content, having aces in your places. Are your keywords effective? Are all of the words having a purpose on your site? Do they either drive to a sale or do they either drive the crawlers to figure out what in the heck you do? So the next thing is your leader. That's your collaborative marketing. So your SEO campaign should be built to support all of your other marketing efforts. So you need to make sure that you're on brand. You need to make sure that your keywords make sense and that they're actually searchable terms and not just industry specific. If you've been on one of my forums, I've got a very strong background with the multifamily industry, having been on the client side for about 6 years before I moved on to SEO 4 years later. And they would always target luxury apartments or granite countertops. Well, those aren't searchable terms. They're flashy and they're fun and people get excited, but they're not searchable. Your decision makers, these are your Google crawlers. These Google crawlers have the know-how to be able to know what you need to rank for and what you actually is on your site that is relevant to the person that is searching. So that's how your Google crawls your website and how it reads your sitemap as well as some of your indexing. And then again, when you talk about landing pages, why you have your landing pages. And then your developer, as your company grows, your SEO campaign should adapt. This is your technical SEO. Everybody, almost every website in the world has at least some technical error, and that's because websites are adaptable and you have to keep them up to date. So your technical SEO is something to always keep an eye on. These are any of your errors from a 404 code to a broken link to maybe a missing meta description. So some reasons you may not be ranking. You haven't told Google that you're a business or your business listings are conflicting with other addresses. This can happen a lot with co-work spaces. It can happen a lot with, different departments being listed with different Google My Businesses. But that's the number one thing. If you do not have a Google My Business, I suggest you set one up immediately. Your site could be poorly optimized for search engines. That is the thing. You've got to make sure that you've got your keywords there and that it's easy to crawl and easy to load, and also search speed. We want to make sure that it's moving very quickly. You also may be searching competitive keyword phrases. For instance, car lots in Nashville. I know we've got somebody on a forum that owns a car dealership. He even brought this up in one of our forums. He's like, I don't want to go after car lots in Nashville. That's where you dial it down and you look for, car lots in Nashville with a black Nissan Tundra. And I don't even think those are the right words, but you get what I mean. You're not utilizing paid advertising. So I talk about this a lot. Your paid advertising is kind of when you think about the tortoise and the hare. Your paid advertising is your hare. It gets out of the gate. It runs really well. It gets you leads immediately. But the second you stop working, the second it stops paying and stops running, you lose the race and the tortoise squeaks in with your SEO. You may not be active on social media. A lot of times people are able to find you on social media, especially if you have a pixel on your site and you're utilizing that pixel. The pixel is the creepy thing that happens when you look for a toaster on bedbathandbeyond.com, and next thing you know, you're seeing ads for toasters while you're scrolling your Facebook in the evenings. That would be what you utilize your pixel for, and it's very, very valuable to businesses for staying in front of the customer. The other reason could be your reviews are bad or non-existent. So always check your Google reviews especially, but make sure you've got reviews on other platforms as well. You may see me use the word throughout this presentation about a citation. Well, what is that? A citation is basically a directory. So make sure that you're in as many directories as you can be in, maybe a Better Business Bureau. If you're in entertainment industry, maybe you get in with, Nashville Guru and see what it would take to get them on our Nashville scene, things like that. Also, you have no authority from backlinks. So citations kind of do a double whammy. You can also get a backlink because you've got another site referring your business. And I'm going to cover a little bit more about backlinks a little later. So if I've lost you so far, don't worry, I dumb it down a little bit better in the future slides. So something about local SEO that's really important. You will not get ranking for local SEO unless you have a Google My Business. Your local SEO, when we talk local SEO, that is this, everybody's seen these maps on Google, and then that is these three pop-ups that come down below. This is what we call the local map pack. And the one thing that I want you to take off this slide is 33.33% of all mobile queries are location-based queries. So that's pretty good, right? Especially if you have a brick and mortar. But 88% of consumer local business searches on a mobile device either call or visit the businesses within 24 hours. So if you have a business and you do not have a Google My Business, this is very important to set up. It takes all of about 5 minutes. If you need a little help, we're definitely here to help you just streamline the process and make sure you get your Google My Business set up. But that is the difference between local SEO and organic SEO, which we'll cover next. Organic SEO is all of these listings. So these are where you see your actual web pages and you see some text below. And sometimes you may see it in the form of a blog page. So when we talk about, let's talk about some of these fun little terms that a lot of people don't always know about. So meta title, that is your blue text up here. This is your call to action, the thing that makes you special about your company, but should also have some keywords sprinkled in so you show up on search results. So remember, Google is going to highlight the search results that you have on your page. Down below, you've got not your typical Nashville web design. And then you've got your meta description down below. This should be informative. It should be helpful, but it should also have key searchable terms in the meta description. So something to think about. I'm going to talk about the 3 top rankings while we're here on this call. The 3 top rankings right now are for Google, as far as the newest core update, is links, your content on your site, which it will always be content on your site, and your rank brain, which is your user experience. How easy is your site to navigate? Now, this is not its own slide, but something to be cautious of. Is there's a big new update coming up in May that Google gave us a whole lot of time to kind of get to know what's about to happen. And it is all, think about my last slide with mobile and how many people are using mobile. It is all centered around how mobile friendly your site is. So the one thing you want to remember is look at your site on mobile. Don't just look at it at your computer. It's hard to think about looking at your site from your phone because, you know, when you're working, you're in work mode, you're on your computer, you're not on your phone. But you need to remember to keep your site on your phone and keep looking at it as you're going. The next slide just kind of goes through our SEO process. So the first thing we do is a website analysis, and this process works for anybody, you guys. Use it yourselves if you have the bandwidth. So you think about your website analysis. From that website analysis, you look at your client requirements. Do they need more content? Do they need more landing pages? Do they have a ton of technical errors and integrations that we have to kind of navigate through? Then we do our keyword research. We do content writing. We do website optimization. So we look and see where we can put all the keywords in the different places. We submit your sites to search engines. And then we look into link building and reporting. David loves this slide. He gets a crack up at it every single time, but a recent study from HubSpot states that 75% of users never make it past the first page of search results. So where's the best place to hide a dead body? On the second page of Google. So if you're not showing up in search results, kind of have a discussion with us. Maybe we can talk to you about your site health, any of your site audits, or maybe discuss some keywords that you could be utilizing in your site. Another thing is think about long tail keywords. Over a third of Google search queries are 4+ words long. So you've got to kind of think about that. Like nobody's searching for car lots. They're searching for black trucks in Nashville under $2,000. They're looking for downtown Nashville apartments close to UBS, things like that. So keep in mind about these long tail keywords and think about what would you search for? Put yourself in your customer's shoes and think about what they would be searching for when they come online. Some frequently asked questions. This is where I kind of dial it down and talk about some of the terms that I've used and what they actually mean and why they're important. So DA, domain authority. I've mentioned Google's domain authority. So think about this example. You go to look for a mechanic because your transmission went out, and you have two friends that have told you that there are two different places that are the best in town. One of your friends knows a lot about cars. He may even own a car lot. I think that's my next slide, but he may even own a car lot. The other friend is just a friend of a friend that's used this company once. So who has the most authority? Well, it's probably this guy that has been in the business longer. He's got a better, you can use the words credit score if you want to. That's another example people use. So that would be how much authority they have. How much do you believe them when they're talking about what they are doing? Now, your referring domain would be the person or the website who referred your business. You see this a whole lot with blogs. When you see a blog that is written or an article that is written with a hyperlink, that's where you see these domain authorities and referring domains come into place. I like this slide. This is one of my favorites, but for backlinks, think of backlinks in terms of referrals. Each backlink is a word of mouth referral to Google praising your business. And of course, we always want to put some kind of little funny thing in there to make you guys laugh or see if it lands, but I never know what she does back there. Well, this is a slide that kind of mentions, backlinks are a lot of things that SEO companies or things that you could do yourself that you will never see on your site, but they are very important and something you actually need to make sure that you're implementing with your SEO campaigns. Directory citation. The concept is simple. The more places Google sees your page pop up, the better. It also allows people to find you organically while also piggybacking off of the directory's SEO. So what does it mean when I say strategic citations? So strategic citations would be a citation that is relevant to your business. If you're in the music scene, you may want to look at different Google forms that you can use that are centered around songwriters or centered around people that are booking bands or touring musicians, things like that. Nashville scene, now playing Nashville, things like that. I mentioned a minute ago about blogs and articles with hyperlinks in them, and I'm trying to be cautious of time, so I'm going to start going through these slides a little bit quicker, but those are known as either link building or guest blogging. So it's the same concept of our referring domain authority, except for now, the one person who knows about his cars and even had his mechanic fix a car that had a transmission go out before, the other just liked the shop because they were nice when they changed their brake pads. So who is more qualified to refer them for your specific problem? So this is where you write a blog about transmissions and why they're important, or maybe you write a blog about the newest Tesla and what transmission it has in it. And you link back to this mechanic site that works on transmissions. Now, granted, here's where it gets kind of funny. Make sure that that mechanic can work on those transmissions, because you wouldn't want somebody to find them organically and then be linked to their site and now they can't go anywhere because they don't work on Teslas. But it allows you to optimize for keywords as well as just referring your business. So now they are not only referring your business, they're referring your business for exactly the problem they have because you have the solution they need. So that is what guest blogging is. So toxic backlinks and disavow. These are, when I was on the client side, it took me a second to kind of grasp this, and I'm not going to date myself, but that was almost a decade ago. But these are links that could be traced back to your site that come from spammy sites, that's a technical term, with a low domain authority. This is not good for SEO. We had a site that we found, it wasn't part of this forum. I know we've got dermatologists on this forum, but it was a similar dermatologist that was linked to a lot of sites that either were foreign or they didn't make sense. And Google will notice those over time and you can get penalized. And that's when you have to go into a penalty recovery and start removing these backlinks and disavowing these backlinks. So now you've got Michael Scott saying no, just no. It's better to have good quality backlinks than to have a ton of backlinks that go nowhere. So now that brings us to kind of the end of our presentation. This is David's email. If you have some trouble filling out the form on the chat, you can also schedule a call with David, and he'll be able to kind of go through how to set up a call to talk about your site audit. It's a free site. Again, it's all, or a free site audit. It's all designed to be helpful, informative, and tailored to your business. So we are able to actually answer any questions that you have on the site. And you just get about an hour of my time to pick my brain on any marketing efforts that you may be doing and how you can do them more effectively. So after that, I will turn it back over to David.
And Heather, you went through that so efficiently and effectively that we'll have actually more time for question and answer. But before we get into that, if you'll check the chat, you will have a link to just actually request one of those site audits. Of course, you can always email me, but we're more than happy to chat with you, whether it's on SEO or anything else that we do. We'd love to talk. So with that, I think Bill is going to be reading the questions. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, definitely. If you have questions, please type them in the chat. I don't think I see any questions right now, but put them in the chat, and I'll kind of start us off actually, because I have a quick question, Heather or David. You talked about blogging and organic SEO, and I'm wondering, since Google owns YouTube, how impactful or how effective is doing a video or a vlog or whatever going to help SEO for our businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Videos are always going to be the one thing that you can do that will be entertaining for a customer. So that's really helpful, because some people don't want to read a whole article. They may want to just watch a video. So when you're uploading to YouTube, there are some keywords that you can place in the descriptions. And they also give you an option to tag your business. And again, when you tag your business, try to think of these keywords and think about the long tail keywords again. But videos and YouTube are an exceptional place to be inputting keywords and optimizing for SEO. The other place kind of to tag on that comment is also your images. Make sure that your images, if you have an opportunity to put some keywords in the background of your image, like your alt text, make sure you're optimizing that for also, because you think about Google's got those sections at the top of the page. It's got the news, the images, and the video. So those are great.
Gotcha.
Also, one other thing on that, Heather, if I'm not mistaken, because all videos are closed captioned, if you can speak some of the keywords, put the keywords into what you're talking about, that will have some effect. Isn't that right, Heather?
It can, absolutely. I think that the biggest reason for having captions is, they may be taking a break at work and they don't want to listen to a video on full volume. But if you have captions on your videos, they still get the message either way. I can't tell you how many times I'm maybe at a doctor's office or waiting on a to-go order or something, and I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I may watch a video if it's got subtitles on it to where I can figure out what they need with what they're talking about without volume. So great point, David.
All right, we got a couple of questions in the chat here. Kaylin says, what are best practices for keeping up with your competitors who are also trying to rank for the same keywords?
Yeah, so the one thing is the average business probably doesn't have the same kind of tools that we use to look at it, but there are a lot of things that you can use without tools. So the one thing is to identify your competitors and make sure that they're comparables. If you own a hardware supply store, you don't want to be looking at Home Depot. You want to be looking at maybe Joe's Hardware down the street, who maybe just has more customers than you. But the great thing is, if they are above you on Google search, the best thing you can do, look in an incognito browser, because incognito browsers will tell no lies. I have another site where I always put Jerry Springer on it, and I say, you're not. So you say you're showing up on search results, incognito browsers say that that is a lie. Well, the reason for the incognito browser is you don't have anybody background information. It's not using your cookies. It's not looking at your location to make sure you're close. It tells you exactly how you're doing. So look at the ones above you and then look at their site and think about it. Like, do they have certain landing pages for services that are offered? How many times are they using keywords within the text? How much text is on the site? That is the number one thing that I notice with companies, is that they either do not have enough text on their site, or they don't have landing pages specific to what they offer, or they do not have a blog. Blogs are very important because you can't have keywords too many times, right? That's keyword stuffing, and Google frowns on that. So if you use blogs, you're able to talk about your services more often on your site, and Google still crawls that as content, and it's a separate page. So that's a great way to be better than your competitors. If they don't have a blog, you can really kick their butt if you put a blog up.
Another question here, Heather. So from Kelly. So it's kind of similar to what you were just talking about. How important or not are using keywords from a competitor site in order to increase your visibility in the Google search? And I'm also thinking, you know, should we be looking at our competitor sites and trying to duplicate that, or find the gaps, you know, and kind of be distinguish ourselves?
So that is a great question. And if anybody has, I'm just going to bring up that site audit and that marketing consultation again, because if you have keywords from your competitors that you're wondering, because the only thing I would caution is you don't know how much search volume those keywords have. So those keywords could be very valuable. They could be gold, or they could be a little bit non-helpful. Like, it could be a keyword that nobody searches for. So if you have a list of keywords, definitely bring that with us when you schedule your site audit. We have tools that we can tell you exactly how many people are searching for that a month. And it's really cool. So we can tell you, you know, that's a great keyword to go after, or it's low hanging fruit that not a lot of people are going after. And that would be another good option. But to answer your question, it's very important to use their keywords if they are performing better than you. But make sure that you're using keywords that make sense to you. And again, get in your customer's brain and make sure that you think it's something that they would use. Don't use industry specific keywords.
Gotcha. I have another quick question while we get some more in the chat here. So as it relates to blogging, you said blogs are key, and I can't remember the last time I read a blog, but now that I think about it, like when I Google something and I pull up an article, it's a blog. So it didn't even like resonate with me. But how often, like, should we be blogging like every day, every week, every month? Should that be like part of our marketing regimen? Or, you know, should we just highlight certain services or products that we have in our business in the blog?
That's a great question. So with blogs, it's really dependent upon your bandwidth. And when you do your blog, again, you're just making sure that keywords on your site are seen more often. So it's more of a term on how can you grow? How quickly can you grow? So if your competitors, look at your competitors, if they have 100 blogs and you have 0, don't kill yourself trying to write a blog every day, but maybe you need to try to do 2 a week so you can eventually get up to their 100 and surpass them if they're only doing 1 a month. So that's where it can be really helpful. That's actually how we come up a lot of times with our pricing, is we do a competitive analysis and we look at how quickly do they want to grow and what do we need to do to get them there. So that would be, again, competitor research is king, you all, and you know your competitors like the back of your hand. But looking at their blog pages, seeing how many they have and how many you don't have, and kind of make up a plan of action. If I want to get to where they are quicker, I need to be more aggressive. If I'm fine with slow and steady wins the race and I want to do a couple here and there, then it's really just your own bandwidth. But your results will be based upon how many blogs you can get done.
Yeah, gotcha.
And Bill, to couple on with that, I can't tell you how many times Heather and I talk to people and they are bound and determined that this search term is what people are looking for. And we put it into the tool and there's no traffic on it at all.
Mm.
And so it's that idea of, you can't see your own business. You can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. So having somebody take a look at those keywords and say, I don't really think somebody is looking for something this specific.
Yeah.
They're looking for something more general, or they're searching for this. And all right, what we do is we bring that outside view to it. And I even tell that to, I'm president of the American Marketing Association National Chapter. And when I talk to other marketing agencies, I say, one of the worst things I think a marketing agency can do is do their own marketing, get somebody else to do it so they understand, and you can get a different perspective, because it's just one of those things. You can't eat your own cooking and think it's, you just can't be a good judge.
Yeah, a different set of eyes or perspective on it for sure. We got a couple more good questions here from Chris. How do you enhance Google My Business if you don't have a physical location, but you are geographically focused?
Yeah, that one's a little difficult. So the first thing I would make sure, so your question's on Google My Business, so I'll target that one first. You can always get a PO box. And then you should be able to hide your address, but because Google sees your PO box, it will locate you in that region that you need. But they try not to have too many people have a PO box, so it does negatively affect you a little bit, but it's not going to affect you worse than not having a location. So it's not going to put you above a competitor that is right next door to somebody that's searching, but it does help you rank and help you show up in the local map pack for that specific location and area. The other thing in this is SEO centered, but make sure that you have a location or a service area page. That way you can have keywords that are location-based keywords. Like, Chris, I'm so sorry, I don't know what you do, but like animal removal in Tennessee, or animal removal in Northern Alabama, things like that. But make sure that you've got those location pages as well, or service area pages.
Yeah, good. Next one from Kelly. Press releases, same, better, or different than blogs? I'm guessing like if you post them online. PR.com, that tool. So
yeah. So press releases are kind of your own guest blogging. So that's kind of cool. When you link them to other places, it's almost like you're doing a guest blog. So they're doing the same thing, but again, content is key on your site. So you're almost kind of getting ahead of the curve and doing what I do, but you're doing two different types of SEO. So my answer would be both. Do both if possible, because if you're doing press releases, it's always great because then you're getting those quality backlinks that you need. But if you do a blog on your site, you're helping to also increase your content. So content is first. Backlinks are also amazing. So do both if possible.
yeah, thanks, Heather. So how long does it take? I've had conversations in the past several years about SEO and generating leads and all this stuff through SEO. And I've even had companies come to me and say, I'm not going to charge you. And when we generate leads, we'll split, revenue or whatever, right? And it's never worked. But I think that the time frame in which we were engaging was a factor. So how long does it take for SEO to start working? Like for us to start seeing results? Like if we need to create more content, if we need to create more blogs, if we need to update Google My Business, and we need to do all these things, how long does it take for us to kind of see some results in the past, maybe with a case study or clients you've had?
Yeah, so that answer is always a little tough. And when I'm dealing with clients, I never make promises. I just promise that at the end of our contract, you will see an ROI for the whole contract. But the big answer is, and the most direct answer is, think about if you're running a race and I ask you, how long does it take to run a mile? Well, it may take me a whole lot longer to run a mile than it takes you, because let's face it, your girl cannot do cardio. But, so everybody's got a different body. Everybody's got a different pace. Well, everybody's website starts from a different place. So not one website is ever running the same race. They don't have the same competition. They don't have the same infrastructure or the same content to work with. Brand new sites are exceedingly difficult because they're starting literally from a baby trying to run a race. So you never really have any kind of answer. If you're looking to just increase your traffic, then you should be able to start seeing an increase in traffic on your site. But as far as an increase in like revenue, it depends on how competitive your industry is and where you start. It could take up to a year sometimes for people to see results. But at the end of the year, you're still getting results as you go along. But at the end of the year, you've made your ROI if you're SEO provider. And I'm sure a lot of you have SEO providers already, but if your SEO provider has done their homework when they quote your price, you should be able to make that justification on your ROI at the end of the year.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
Bill, I'd like to
Mhm.
just comment on that just a little more. I think all of us can agree, real estate is probably one of the most competitive markets in Nashville, Middle Tennessee right now. And Heather and the team got a client that's in the real estate industry. And I just looked at it, I said, wow, that's going to be really tough to rank, because there's so much out there. And very quickly, and this is just a certification of what she has just said. They put a good investment into it. They took it seriously and wanted to really make sure that they were becoming the demand, that they would be seen as a thought leader. And within 3 to 4 months, they had almost 100% increase in traffic. Heather, 77, 78%, something like that. It was pretty significant. So even though there are a lot of industries that are extremely competitive, and that would be one I would say is, if you're willing to put dollars behind it and be consistent. So many people are not consistent with a plan. They'll go 2 months, they'll say, oh, that's not working, I'm going to shift over here. It takes time for that plan to take root. So you just have to be patient with it. And I know patience with most entrepreneurs, patience is not necessarily one of our strong points. So Heather's team does a good job at making sure that patience is weighted out as much as possible.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
that is also a good example of how customers can help your SEO providers. That customer is now on the 4th position for Google, but they provide us with 2 blogs each month just because they can, or they want to write blogs. And we've been able to maximize their efforts coupled with the blogs that we write. And it's just been really, really helpful. So, that's where you have the collaborative efforts there, and it's helpful.
So you guys create content too. You'll write the blogs, and what about social media? Will you manage that as well? Create content for that?
So we do not yet.
Okay.
Couple things at a time. We are looking into starting Facebook ads. Right now we offer SEO and we offer Google ads. We've got a pretty large team. I've got the SEO team as a whole. We've got 6 teams that actually do the work. We've got 2 project managers that coordinate all the work. And then you've got me as the SEO manager. And then I've got 5 content writers that are locally based, somewhat locally. I think one is like Kentucky or something like that, but they're locally based and they do all the content, all the blog writing and things like that.
Yeah, cool. So what about price range? Can you share, how much, a business or we as entrepreneurs should be prepared to spend on SEO? Is there a minimum amount? Is there a percentage of marketing budget or whatever?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the SEO provider that you're looking at. So there are, and again, this is an informative call, so we'll talk about a little bit of all of them, but keep in mind, the more money you spend, the quicker you get results. So if you're spending, if you find somebody that does it for like $200 a month, they're just really just making sure that you're optimizing your site and they're not doing a whole lot of extra work to get you there. And it'll take a really long time to get results. And that's not even in your 12-month window. At all of my prior experience and all of my competitors that I currently consider to be comparables, they have the same amount of clients. I believe that they do the same value of work, the quality of work. They all do custom packages. And I think if you find an SEO provider that does a custom package, they know their stuff and they're tailoring it to your business. But I would be hesitant to try to assign something if I needed results and an ROI for anything less than $1,500. And that's if I had a non-competitive business. So that's just a price range. I think a lot of SEO providers, if you go for a bigger company, they're going to tell you that they look at your competitors, they look at your backlinks, they look at your blog posts, they look at your content, and they come up with an estimate of how much work they have to do. And then they compare it to how quickly you want to see results. And that's how they get their price. And that's true for a lot of the larger companies and a lot of some of the companies I've worked with in the past on the client side, as well as my previous company that I worked with before coming to Dev Digital, and a lot of my competitors and collaborators.
Gotcha. Thank you. Because, you know, we're all looking for that return on investment, you know what I mean? And I think we're willing to invest if we know if it makes sense, you know? So let's see, do we have any other questions? I don't see any more in the chat. And what we're going to do now actually is, by the way, if you have other questions, I'm sure David and Heather will be able to answer those, but we're going to break out into sessions, smaller groups, and each group will have a moderator and a couple of questions. So here, I'm gonna give you some questions to start off or to kick off the engagement. And the questions are, have you had success with SEO? And so tell us about that in your small group. And the second question is, what are you going to do differently based on what you learned today? All right, so have you had success? And what are you going to do differently based on what you have learned today? So we'll break you guys out into the small groups and with your moderator. And also, if you can, designate somebody to take notes, to scribe. And then we'll come back. If we have some time, we'll share it and we'll go from there. Thank you.
I'm just trying to level out these groups just a hair. Give me 1 sec.
Oh, you're good.
Let's see. All right. Sounds good. So Bill, I'm going to let you moderate your room. And then if